Hello, I'm Meher Master, student of class 12 at the Shri Ram School, Molsri, Gurgaon, in India. I'm one of the approximately 50,000 Parsis in India. My interest in delving deeper into being Parsi started with my initiation into the community through my Navjot in 2018. I also found deep refuge in the words of our prayer. A beautiful translation runs like this: righteousness for the sake of righteousness, for righteousness in its own. Do the right thing, that itself is your reward. It was during my weekly visits to the temple that my father told me the story, and it became not only a big lesson, but also began my quest into learning, knowing, and reading more about what it means to be a Parsi. I was intrigued and wanted to know how a community so small in a country of more than 1 billion people still had such a significant impact. The story goes like this. When the Zoroastrians came to India and landed in Gujarat, they were told by the then ruling king that they would have to turn back as his kingdom had absolutely no place for additional people, and it was already full of successful people who were driving the force. The leader of the group of Parsis requested the king to allow him to share something with him. He asked for a glass full of milk up to the brim, with no place for any more milk to go in. The Parsi gentleman shared that the king's kingdom was like this glass full of milk with absolutely no more place. And then he asked for a spoon of sugar and added it to the milk. It beautifully merged into the glass of milk without overflowing. He shared that the Parsis would be like a teaspoon of sugar, and through their small number with strong values of compassion and righteousness, add to the sweetness of the population of India. This story moved me, and it became very clear to me that it was our values, cultures, and traditions that added so much vibrancy. And I wanted to apply the essence and spirit of Zoroastrianism to something that would enable me to give back to the society just like this community has always done. So I kept meeting people, reading more, and trying to build more knowledge each day. I used my learnings and also my training in music, and sometime in 2022 started a journey with a group of adolescent girls who were at a home so they could find purpose and heal and feel lighthearted through music. They became a little universe that was a community in itself, and while I shared my music with them, they continued to give me the life lessons of commitment. The learnings from my faith and teaching the girls made me want to talk to Zoroastrians across diverse walks of life to know more about their journey, their life stories, the challenges they had, how they turned them into opportunities. My journey in the times to come would be about meeting some very inspiring people from the community and assimilating small slices of their lives, so that many young people and I myself could also benefit from their experiences and learnings. I'm grateful to have partnered with Youth Ki Awaaz, and through this vlog series, I have only attempted in one very small way to share with the world and with people my age about the life lessons we can take from inspiring Parsis across different walks of life.
I think one of the key things which I learned as a child and all, that our religion has the good and the evil.
Yes.
And your choices actually tell you to, you as a young adult, after your Navjot is done, after you wear your Sadra Kasti, you make these conscious choices. So you make a good choice or a bad choice.
Yeah.
And then you have to live with your choices in that sense. So I think it somewhere keeps you conscious, and you, if you wear your Sadar Kasti and you do your prayers, it keeps you conscious enough to make these good choices.
Yeah.
And kind of, so it's not about making a bad choice and then just saying sorry. So I think
It's about living with the consequences
of your choices.
Exactly.
And I think that's where has been key.
I think it's very important to know that at least let's try our best with all our failings, to maintain or not sully the reputation in any way.
Yes.
So if one can't contribute, I can't contribute like, say, a Farooq Udwadia did, or Zarir Udwadia, or for that matter, Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, or Homi Bhabha, or you name, there's a whole, I may not be able to do that. There's a whole long list. Then if I can't, that's fine. My chops aren't good enough. That's fine. But I would not want to bring down the value of the community And that's my appeal to all those who say, oh, look, man, I'm leading a normal life. Normal is great. Normal is perfectly okay. Everybody can't be a Sam Manek. So I'll tell you what happened to me in this anecdote, since you specifically asked for an anecdote. And that is, I got a property, a room to be a photographer, to start a studio. In the Soviet Union had broken down and it became the Russian consulate, and they were giving out space because that was a cultural center, so they were letting out space. And they were giving it to me at a very nominal rent with a fridge and a phone and an AC, and I'm saying, my God,
Wow.
am I lucky? And I said, it's not happening. It's too good to be true. It's not happening.
It can't.
And then the MOU came along, and I'm reading it. Hey, this is. I say this anecdote to every single Parsi thing that I've ever been to. People are fed up of it, but it needs to be said. So I go there, and there he was, the Consul General of Russia, and this guy who used to sit at the wafer shop. I'm a shopkeeper who wants to be a photographer, who wants to have, and this would be the best address. I mean, you sit at that address at Breach Candy, you turn around and say, hey, so I go there, and he opens up and we are signing the contracts. He unplugs his pen, he's about to sign, and I say, sign. He doesn't sign. And he puts it back in the cap. I said, I knew it was too good to be true. He's read it and realized this is too good. And he just says, I want to ask you a question. I said, okay, Mr. Guryanov. I remember very well. It's about 30 years ago. And he says, I need to confirm this from you. You are Parsi Zoroastrian? I said, yeah. That's all I wanted to hear. And he unplugs the thing and he signs it. That's all it took for the legacy of our forefathers who have handed this to us. A reputation that is unparalleled.
Yeah.
A Russian is telling me.
That's it.
It
just took a yes.
And he signed. And what does that tell me? Why did I get that place? Why did that become a stepping stone for my future? It's thanks to the legacy of our community.
So I just felt, there's this story where I was in London and I was studying. I was very young, doing my master's. And right from the beginning, I always knew that I wanted to be a pastry chef. I wanted to study French cuisine and pastry, and I was doing really well.
Yeah.
But there was this one incident when I was in London that made me realize that, however much I would learn French cuisine and techniques, I'd never be as good as a French person doing it. Because they've kind of grown up with those flavors, and I realized I was missing home cooked food. I was missing Parsi food. And this isn't, this is something that all kids go through. When you leave home, you realize the importance of home cooked food. And that's when I started cooking Parsi food in London, and a lot of people really appreciated it. And that's when it clicked. And I was like, why haven't I done this? Why haven't I chosen this as my path? So I came back to India and worked with Soda Bottle Openwala. I was part of the opening team, created a Parsi Bombay Rani restaurant. I ran that for 10 years, expanded it all over the country. And for me, it was just about getting more people to know about Parsi cuisine and customs. Because it's such a delightful amalgamation of so many flavors. Like Parsi food is not just one type of
many flavors.
It's got a little bit of Iran, it's got a little bit of the British influence, some Gujarati, Maharashtrian and Goan spices. So it's like this beautiful mix of all. I wanted to showcase this to the world as a chef, and I was like, cooking is my art and this is my beautiful religion. So why not put these two together? And every restaurant since then that I've consulted, I've always put Parsi food. The masalas have always come from my home. Mom makes the masalas. And it's a story that, I want people to be cooking like how they cook, biryani or rajma chawal or any other regional Indian dishes. I want them to cook daan saag as well.
Yeah.
I want the world to know about Parsi food.
I'm going to share a very small story with you. It's about the founder of Parsi Dairy Farm, Mr. Nariman Adesar, and he's our great grandfather And so one day, one of my elder brothers was standing at what in those times we used to call galla, which is basically like the cash counter.
Okay.
And he was standing out there, and he said that repeatedly he saw this lady who lived in the neighborhood, and she would always come to the store every single day, pick up maybe just like a packet of very basic thing. But while she would be walking out, and she would come at that particular time, so he was always there at that time doing duty. And he would see that she would, when she was walking out, she would look at the frame of the founder, which was put on the wall, and she would stand there for a minute with her shopping bag and pray for like a whole good minute, and then she would exit. So she kept doing that. So one day my brother was very curious why she was doing that to like our great grandfather. So he stopped her and he said, "Excuse me, if you don't mind, I'd really like to know, why are you praying to him?" So she says, "You don't know, but I lost my father when I was very, very young, and I live around the corner. My mum came back to Parsi Dairy, and that time they used to have these little paper coupons for supplying milk to the house. And she came back to him and she said, 'I can't afford your milk any longer. The person who like earns money in our family has passed away. My husband has passed away. I request you to take this back. I can't afford it for my children.' He immediately turned it back to her and said, 'Your children till they grow up will get free milk.' And she said that if that wasn't there for us when we were growing up, if he would not have done that generosity or that, I would say, compassion,
requirement of life.
yeah, he said, your children will get it free. You do not have to come here. You do not have to pay till your children grow up." And I don't think she was the only one. We got to know, like, as the family grew up and we'd meet people, they'd be like, your great grandfather gave our house free milk because my dad passed away. So
Actually, I would say there's a sort of connect to this story to himself,
Correct.
my great grandfather,
correct.
where he lost his father when he was very young,
Yeah.
and they had approached his school, and he was wanting to basically he didn't have the money to continue.
Yeah.
Whereas the principal of that school actually told
His mother.
okay, he will finish his schooling in this school, and only then and without any fees.
Without any fees, yes.
So I guess that he kept in his mind, and he said, he's grown so much. He wants to give back to the community. He wants to give back to humanity. I would say that.
And that sense of compassion, or that sense of not only thinking about the profit.
What is your suggestion on keeping our community alive and vibrant even amongst the future generations?
So I think it's important to continue bonding together and passing on these values. So it's not just a physical Sadhya or Kasti. I think more important are the actual values that we transmit to each generation. And that connects up beautifully with ethos of our religion also, that good thoughts, good words, good deeds, but good deeds being the most important of them.
So I think music in its essence is deeply rooted with our culture, because our culture is all about vibrations and good vibrations, even with the prayers that we have or the way they are narrated.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, understanding that put music into a very different perspective for me. Like, it was not just an entertainment form, it was so much more than that. As I said previously, it was a source to bring me peace. And it helps people recover from from
Yeah, music
therapy is real. Music therapy is huge.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the base essence of our culture is so pure. It is so how do I say, kind. And I think that's what music pairs up with it very well.
I love how you said like the essence of our culture is so kind.
It is though.
Yeah, and how it connects with everything. Like, especially like with music, it's all about spreading positivity.
Correct. Yeah.
And with music therapy, or just like singing, when sing to make you feel better.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
You can make yourself feel better, and in the process make everyone else feel better too.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Photography has taught me a lot of things, and combining photography and priesthood both demand a huge amount of discipline. Discipline in the sense, like, you have to be on time, accuracy. You know, you have to find out. In priesthood also, you have to have your certain. Now, if you're talking of priesthood, what time you have to get up in the morning for certain ceremonies, the ceremonies that you have to start, what time you have to be in the temple for a particular ceremony. Ceremonies also are from different time to time, so to be very punctual. Same thing in wildlife photography. Wildlife photography is you are also playing with nature. You can't work with the mind of the tiger or a leopard. What time you can't tell him you have to come at this particular time. So we have to wait for him, and we are also playing with light. So what light is falling, when, where, which angle?
Yeah.
So that's all. So in both the cases, discipline plays a major role, and patience.
Yeah.
You have to wait for 1 day, 2 days. Sometimes you get your snaps like this.
But sometimes it takes longer.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it makes you run up the wall.
So I come from a very deep-rooted Zoroastrian family, I would say, because all my grandparents from all sides, my parents as well, they are all Zoroastrian. And I think just learning value systems and work ethic from them, which they have also learned via our scriptures in a sense. So our base prayer, which is Hashem Vo, which I know you know, is actually truth brings happiness.
Yeah.
Right? And then you must say truth for the sake of truth itself. That's literally what the prayer is.
Yeah.
So it's just about me speaking my truth every single day and just being true to who I am as an artist, as a person, as a sculptor, all of it. So it's about being true to yourself, true to your artistry, true to your work. And it's a lesson and tradition that I think is so deeply imbibed. You don't realize it, but it's something that you just practice every day, notionally, without even meaning to. So of course it's helped me a great deal with just being able to hold my own in a sense, almost, be true to what I want to do. And I'll continue to say the things that I want to say via my art, regardless of what anyone else has to say, and just keep moving forward.
We are different people. There are different. Zoroastrianism is so varied.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that my community did really help me out in the beginning of my career. They're the ones that pushed me out. They're the ones that gave my name. They're the ones that have helped put the name out there, and I have gotten to rooms because of Parsis.
I love that sense of community.
It is. That is so strong. It is so strong that I must give it to them. This is a very important aspect. Our community comes together. And the funny part is our community also helps everyone else. As many opinions as they have about everybody else around them. Yeah. At the end of the day, when push comes to shove, they have the community's back.
Yeah.
That's very pretty. I think that's very nice.
India has always been about
diversity.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best part about our country.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also why Parsis flourished in India.
Yeah.
Because the environment was such that we were allowed to, and we were embraced, and we were just allowed to thrive. And for that, I will always be grateful to this wonderful country.
Yeah.
Be kind, affectionate to all human beings.
Yes.
Particularly those less fortunate than you. Particularly those less fortunate than you.
Hope you enjoy all these snapshots and also find time to go through each of them individually. Thank you for being on this journey with me. It is not just a passion project for me. It is a journey to keep alive in my own small and simple way the sacred Zoroastrian fire, which enables us to live with good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. I have initiated and taken my younger sibling also on this journey, so we together continue to keep this alive.